So guys, this is going to be a little bit of a rant video. It's also a response video to a buddy of mine, Big Johnson's Guns and Gear. If you haven't seen him, check him out. The video is entitled Real Men. And in the video, he goes on to explain how the men of today aren't men, per se, to his definition. And on that, I agree. The men of today are a different kind of man. Long gone are the times of self-sufficiency, being able to do a lot of things for yourself, being able to know things for yourself, being able to hunt, being able to fish, being able to change tires, do your own oil changes. Not only that, but presiding over a home, protecting your family, chivalry. All of this stuff seems to be going to the wayside. And in this video, he puts a lot of the blame on the men of today, on the people who are growing up today. And to that, I want to just shout a resounding no. I am on the cusp of millennial, the very, beginnings of it. Because of the age of my parents, I actually tend more towards the Xennial side. I remember writing school reports on a typewriter. I remember when the internet first came out. I've been everywhere from having encyclopedia books on a shelf in my home, to on a CD, to on the internet. And I can't even begin to explain the difference in requirements of proficiency of men today versus men 20, 30, 40 years ago. The things that we have to learn to be able to get along in the world today are drastically different from the things that we had to know back then. Not only that, but the things that we are being taught are different. Because in order to know all of these skills, in order to know how to change your oil, how to change your tire, how to hunt, you have to be taught these things or have the initiative to go out and find them on your own. Now, in a world like it is today, that initiative is hard to find because it is so easy to get these things readily available. You can go to Walmart, get your oil changed, your tires rotated, and while they're doing that, run over to the meat counter and grab your meat. All of these things are things that were built, things that existed since we were coming up, and things that the previous generations had built so that they didn't have to do the very things that they are complaining that we don't know how to do. We have to remember we are all the product of our parents' generations. Our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, our skill sets are all founded by the expectations put on us by our elders. Each generation strives to achieve the things that the outgoing generation expects of them and exists in what's left behind, whether it's good or bad, after the previous generation is done. We live in the ashes of the world after others have already called it quits, and then we're blamed for the fire that burnt it there. And then somehow through that, we're supposed to inherently understand all of these things that we haven't been taught or exposed to. The generations of today, the world that they live in, is different. 50 or 60 years ago, the knowledge of how to work a computer wasn't even on the radar growing up. Our parents and their parents each try to make the world a better place for their kids. And a lot of those things that they do to try to fix that are to reduce the struggle. And a lot of the things that I hear people constantly complaining that the newer generations don't understand how to do is persist through the struggle. But when you grow up in a life that doesn't have that struggle, you're not going to pick those things up the same. I know how to change my own oil. I know how to change a tire. I've rebuilt suspensions. I've helped buddies work on cars. I've rebuilt guns. I can shoot. I can do all of these things, but very few of those things are due to happenstance as I was growing up. I could have paid for oil changes. AAA comes pretty standard on every auto insurance package now. I had to rebuild suspensions in my cars because I didn't have the money to be able to go out and pay somebody else to do it, or I probably would have paid somebody else to do it. But each one of these things, I went out and I learned how to do them for myself. Sometimes because of the innate feeling that I just wanted to learn how to do them. Sometimes because of the circumstance that dictated I had to do it. But if you're not given the circumstance to dictate that you have to do it, and your mental prowess is spent on other things, then what is the drive to be able to learn to do those things that we so often judge the up-and-coming men for not knowing how to do? Not only that, but with a generation before us that attempted so hard to give us a life where we didn't have to do that stuff, they also didn't teach us how to do that stuff. Fewer people now, while they were growing up, were actually exposed to things like doing their own work on cars, like hunting, like fishing. So I'm going to say something that is going to come across as pretty controversial, mostly to my older viewers. If you're looking for someone to blame as to the state of today's youth and today's young men, look no further than your peers. Because it is our parents' generations who mold us. It's their job to teach us skills, to be able to grow us into the people who can continue to persist as a nation. America was founded upon greatness, but not the greatness of men. It's the greatness of what men can be, that outside the confines of what society desires is the expanse of human possibility. It was founded upon the dream that we can be better, that released from rule and promised freedom, mankind could flourish and cultivate the greatest minds in the world, and that under that we could prove that mankind deserves to not be smothered. And we succeeded in that, but the problem is twofold. We created this world where all of this stuff could flourish, but we didn't continue to pass on the legacy knowledge. As each generation got rid of the hardships they had to deal with, they stopped stopped teaching the hardships. My grandparents went through the Great Depression. I heard about it every now and then, but I didn't hear much. None of the skill sets that they learned during the Great Depression have made it through to today. The only way that I would know any of the skill sets is by looking them up intentionally. Now, yes, that's multiple generations down, and my parents probably got some of that knowledge, but you can see just after 2 generations, almost all of that knowledge that they got is gone. And it's not because it didn't happen, it's not because it can't happen again, it's because we're not dealing with it right now. It's because in place right now, we feel our safeguards to keep us from getting there, although a lot of us doubt it at this point. So what can we do? In this video, Big Johnson is talking about a 20-some-year-old guy who is sitting in a parking lot with a flat tire waiting for AAA to come by and help him out. Now, first of all, let me say, Big Johnson is a good guy, and if this guy was in some type of danger or a hurry, I guarantee he would have stopped to help him out. The circumstances around this, guy's just sitting around, obviously not in a hurry, obviously not worried about anything, so he just let AAA come and help him. But here's the thing, is we don't know if that man has ever been exposed to changing a tire on his own vehicle. Whether it's on YouTube or not, his only exposure might have been the fallback of AAA. So what can we do? We can teach. The skill sets that we know, that we have made a point to preserve and to bring up into the modern day, whether they do or don't pertain to struggles that we're having right now, we can make a point to pass those on, whether it's to our children, whether it's to our friends, whether it's to people that we meet. The thing that is lacking in today isn't necessarily real men, it's mentors. As a parent, when you're bringing your children up and you're giving them a better life, you don't want to have to weigh them down with the knowledge of the old life, of the way things were. You want them to be safe, and you feel like you've built this thing for them, and you want them to be able to have it. But we do them a disservice by not teaching them these things that we've learned. So the biggest thing that we can do to help build up today's young men is teach them. Pass on the skills, help them understand. If you see somebody in a situation, check and see if they want help. If somebody's talking to you and they've never hunted, never fished, never shot a gun, maybe offer to take them and do those things. Because if you don't, how is that guy ever going to get the initiative to learn how to change a tire? How is that guy ever going to get the resources to be able to go hunt to learn how to do that? They're not. And so honestly, the people who have failed the current generation are the people older than them who have these skill sets and who have not passed them on. I'm appreciative of the world that we've created. My jobs, every single one of them, is centered around technology and being able to do things like this. And I have the luck that another part of it is to preserve these skill sets that could be lost, and in a way be able to teach others about these skill sets. But we cannot let that be lost. We have to stand up and we have to support the up-and-coming men. If they want to learn, help them learn, because if they don't learn, the next time things go to crap, they're not going to make it through, and that's going to be on us. So thanks guys for watching. I hope this video kind of struck a chord with you. I hope it didn't offend too many of you, but really we have to look around at our peers and what people are being able to do and what they're doing to be able to raise up the youth of today. We have to support them, because if we don't pass this stuff on, nobody will. And then we're just creating the very thing that we're complaining about. Remember guys, I appreciate every one of you, and until next time, do your research, get informed, and get to work.